We're about to dive into a set of numbers that honestly sent shockwaves through English football. This is the story of how Chelsea Football Club managed to post a record-breaking financial loss, a figure so huge it really makes you wonder about the club's future. And there it is, the number at the heart of it all. A truly jaw-dropping pre-tax loss of £355 million. Let's be crystal clear, this isn't just a bad year for Chelsea. This is the single biggest loss ever recorded in the entire history of English football. So you have to ask, how on earth does a global powerhouse like Chelsea end up here? How do they get the biggest loss English football has ever seen? Well, that's exactly the question we're going to answer. We're going to follow the money, see what's coming in, and maybe more importantly, what is just pouring out. All right, first up, let's talk about revenue. The money actually coming into the club. Because when you put Chelsea's income right next to their biggest rivals, a pretty worrying pattern starts to show up. Just take a look at this gap. Chelsea's total revenue was £511 million. Now, on its own, that sounds pretty impressive, right? But then you see Manchester City and Liverpool are both clearing nearly £750 million. That's a massive revenue shortfall of over £230 million. And that's before they've even paid a single bill. So where is that £230 million gap coming from? Well, a big piece of the puzzle is matchday income. Chelsea earns £28 million less from tickets than Liverpool does, and a major reason for that is just physical space. Stamford Bridge is only the 11th biggest stadium in the league. We're talking thousands of seats they can't sell, and millions in lost revenue every single home game compared to their rivals. And you know what? It actually gets worse when we look at commercial deals, all the sponsorships and partnerships. Here, Chelsea is trailing Manchester City by a staggering £165 million. And get this, while their rivals are growing, Chelsea's commercial income actually went down last year. They're literally moving in the wrong direction. And it's the same story with merchandise. Chelsea's kit sales just stalled at £83 million, no growth at all. To give you some context, that's $46 million less than Tottenham and a whopping $82 million behind Manchester United, who lead the league in that department. Okay, it wasn't all bad news for revenue, though. There was one bright spot, and that was broadcast income. Their win at the FIFA Club World Cup helped push their TV money up to £192 million, which actually made them the second highest earner in all of Europe, right behind Man City. So having stagnant revenue is a huge problem, but it's what's happening on the other side of the balance sheet that really turns this problem into a crisis. The club's absolutely mind-boggling spending. First, let's look at the wage bill, £388 million. That is a £43 million jump in just 1 year, making them the sixth highest paying club in Europe. Only Liverpool and Man City have higher payrolls in England. And it's not just player salaries. The cost of just keeping the lights on, everything from travel and marketing to administration, it absolutely skyrocketed, jumping from £159 million all the way to £240 million in a single year. But all of those costs, they are dwarfed by this next number, £1.52 billion. That is how much it costs to assemble Chelsea's current squad, making it officially the most expensive collection of players in the history of football. So how in the world do you even afford a £1.5 billion squad? Well, one key accounting tool they use is called amortization. See, to avoid a massive financial hit all at once, Chelsea gave players these incredibly long contracts, which allowed them to spread the cost of the transfer fee over many, many years. It makes the books look a lot better in the short term, but it really means they're carrying these huge deferred payments that are now coming back to haunt their bottom line. So here's the fundamental problem, laid out right in front of us. On one side of the scale, you have lagging income from pretty much every major source. And on the other side, you have record-breaking expenses, Europe's most expensive squad, a massive wage bill, and soaring operational costs. The scales are just completely, totally out of balance. So the numbers look bleak. We can all agree on that. But what does the club itself have to say about all this? Let's take a look at Chelsea's official side of the story. Despite these staggering numbers, the club is projecting total confidence. Their official statement insists that they fully believe they will comply with UEFA's rules. So how are they justifying these numbers? Well, the club is blaming a series of what they call unfavorable factors. In simple terms, these are one-off accounting hits. Things like writing down the value of certain assets, paying fines for some old issues, and the cost of firing previous managers and staff. They're arguing that these are unique, one-time costs that just make the overall picture look way worse than it actually is. And in response to all the speculation out there, the club is being absolutely adamant. They flatly deny that they will be forced to sell star players just to balance the books and meet any regulatory requirements. So, we've seen the income problem, the spending problem, and the club's official defense. And that leaves us with a big question. What happens next? When you really strip it all back, this entire issue comes down to these 2 points. First, you have a persistent revenue gap that sees them earning far, far less than the rivals. And second, you have a level of spending on players and wages that is just, well, it's completely off the charts. Which leaves us with the billion-dollar question. With spending this high and income is so far behind, can Chelsea really balance the books without selling off their star players? The club insists they can, but the numbers seem to tell a very different story, one that suggests some pretty painful decisions might be just around the corner. I guess we'll all have to wait and see which story turns out